Another episode of SMS Games Talk, and this is the PlayStation 5 Pro launch trailer review. So this is my full review on the PS5 Pro and what I make of it and my thoughts and opinions. But we're going to get into the trailer. To 120 frames. Advanced ray tracing. It's sharper and way more impressive. PlayStation. I'm gonna get the thumbnails for that. Alright, I'll leave it on that for now. Look, everything I've seen, everything I've heard about the PS5 Pro, and everyone's all about the price point. And yeah, I'm gonna be one of those people too. But I'm gonna talk about everything though. The advanced ray tracing and going from 60 frames per second to 120, don't get me wrong, that's impressive. What the console can do and also being released finally from 500 gigabytes to being 1 terabyte, but that's also what raises the price too. It's like buying a new iPhone or a new Samsung. It's like buying the newest phone on the market, especially iPhone and Samsung. It's shocking. As soon as you get into the 1 terabyte stuff, the price is raised. Now, we're here in Australia, I'm talking AUD dollars, and you hear Americans all the time. They'll whinge and they'll complain about their $799 price point with no stand and no disc tray. Here in Australia, it is shocking, beyond shocking. With a GST and tax attached to everything, the console alone is over $1,000. And in my opinion, no console should be over $500 to $600. Even that's a bit pricey, right? If I was to spend, I reckon every console should be at least $500 max. Or if it has to be $600 with the GST. There ain't no fucking way I'm spending over $1,000 when I've already got a PS5 base model digital edition that does the exact same shit. It may not have the advanced ray tracing, it may not have the 120 frame rates, might not have any of that fancy shit. Or the spectral or fucking visual audio, whatever the hell the fancy shit Sony wants to chuck at you. And when you got that bloke who sounds like Ryan Reynolds doing the comparison in that 9-minute video, I'm thinking the same thing as everyone else. Yeah, YouTube might not be doing it justice. Wait until you get on a 4K or 8K TV, and then you compare the difference. But you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to put on fine vocal lenses, like microscopic to see the differences. You're sitting there. I've even seen people do the comparisons between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro running the same game. What difference is there? Even when the PS5 Pro does this enhanced PS4 gameplay option that it's got, where it apparently makes your PS4 games pop more, it doesn't do shit. It does the slightest thing. Other than that, I'm going to just say my Metacritic score straight away out of 10 is a 3. Because that's all this console's doing. It's a 3 out of 10. This console's doing 3 things. The frame rate, the advanced ray tracing, and also the fact that the spectral shit, right? And also the fact that you don't have to choose between high resolution and gameplay anymore. Okay, yeah, that's great. And for what the PS5 is worth, it's just not worth it. But what it's worth, it does what it does and probably does what it does very, very good. But for Sony to kind of chuck the PS5 base model and the PS5 Slim and just say, chuck it in the bin, it ain't worth shit, get the PS5 Pro because that's our newest, latest thing. I bet you they could have done this for the PS5 Slim. They could have put all this stuff in the base model even. But they do the same thing Apple and all these other big companies do, and they leave all the good shit for their Pro models, right? Like with the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the iPhone 16 Pro Max and what they're going to do with the other releases of the iPhones. It's always the Pro models that get the much love that they could have done this. Like from launch, I completely am convinced they could have done this from launch. Or, if not, they could have at least done it with the PS5 Slim. There ain't no way I'm spending over $1,000 plus more, and I've done the math, it's just over $2,000 from where I looked for the PS5 Pro console, the stand, and the disc tray. Now, to me, I'm a digital person. I'm not a disc tray person. I completely understand. I'm not shitting on people that have the disc tray. I get it. PlayStation could be flogging off a game for $140 and you can find it for $90 at your nearest game store, right? At like EB Games or Cash Converters or on the marketplace or something like that, right? You can shop around, and even on eBay, you can find it for cheaper. That's why I completely understand that once people are done with the game. And I also feel like they own the game more in a disc version, in a physical copy, than what they do in a digital copy. The reason why I'm okay with being a digital person was because the first digital game I ever played and ever downloaded and played digitally was on my PS4, and that was Grand Theft Auto 5. And I never looked back from then because I said, to me, it was so convenient. Not having to get up and change the discs all the time, not having to make sure that your discs are not getting scratched. Knowing that I owned a digital copy and I could just exit out of one game and go into another one super easy, super conveniently. And I'm somebody where I practically write off PlayStation Plus games because they're giving you enough. I got my PlayStation Plus Deluxe. You got your Classics catalog. You've got your new monthly games, plus all the other games that they're dropping. And don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. PlayStation Plus's subscription is not perfect. It could be a lot better. But to me, I'm somebody where I try and find the time to play games. I'm not somebody who's sitting on the couch all day and night playing all these COD games and Fortnite and all the rest of it and Minecraft. I don't do any of that shit. I'm the sort of person that sits down and I play a game and I give it time. I don't rush through it. And I also make sure that if it's, it's a game that I am deeply invested in, that I really want to play, that it's not a game that I'm just going to be like, take a chance on. There's been some games I've taken a chance on that haven't had quite the payoff, but at the end of the day, if you're buying a game, you're buying a game. Disc, you can take it back and say, I didn't like this, give me my money back or trade it in for something better. Digitally, you can't do that, which is the issue that I do have with digital. If they want people to trust in digital more, they should find the foundations for number one, stop releasing all these online-only games that are just strictly campaign. That's like, for example, I think the Crew 3 Motorfest, I think that's an online game, and I get it because there is online multiplayer. But other than that, though, like if you've got standalone games that are just campaign and there's some online shit and all the rest of it, some of these games don't need to be a strict have an internet connection or you can't play it. If big companies like Sony and Microsoft want you to invest in a more digital world, they should do two major things. They should not have online-only games if it's a strict campaign game. Now, if it's a full online game, if the whole game is based on online, multiplayer, all the rest of it, then fine. But when it comes to campaign strict, like it's just a campaign, there's not much online, you don't need to have it strictly be online. The second thing is allow for refunds and trades for digital downloads, right? I know I'm living in some miracle unicorn rainbow world This shit's never going to happen. It should though. Especially with if you purchase a game digitally, like hypothetically, I buy Cyberpunk. I play Cyberpunk, but then say to myself, I want to trade this game. Or I want a refund for it because it wasn't quite what I was looking for. Or you play a COD game or something, and it wasn't, like for example, COD Advanced Warfare or something, and it wasn't quite what you were looking for, up to your standards. They should at least have this thing where it says you can complete half the game and then ask for a refund, right? That's where the refund should come into digital. You should be able to ask for a refund if you've only done a quarter or half the game and then decide it's not really what. Now, if you've completed the full game, a refund's off the table. And the only reason why I say that is because fair's fair. You've brought the game, because then people can buy games and play it to their heart's content, and it can be a game they absolutely love and just get a refund for. But it's still, that's when the trade comes in. Because a trade can be, well, the refund only comes into place if you've done a quarter of the game or half the game. If you've done any more than 50% of the game, you don't get a refund. But you can complete a game and do a trade for a game of equal or less price, right? Which means you're trading that game in, you no longer own a digital copy of that. Well, you never own a game, but you know what I mean? You don't have the digital version of that game anymore because you've traded it in for a game of equal price or less. Now, if you're trading it in for a game of less price, fully completed or not, if you're trading a game in for less price, then you should get the DLC with that game that equals the price of, like, for example, you paid for a game that's $140. You've fully completed it. You want to trade it for a game that's $80 that has DLC that equals roughly to like $105 or $110 with the DLC and the base game. They should allow you to trade in this $140 game and also give you PlayStation points on top of it. Or trading credits for the extra remaining what you didn't get for trading in with the other game. Digital trade-ins and digital refunds should be a thing. That's why when I go back to the PS5 Pro console, this being a digital console that can be constructed into a disc edition version of the console, because the way I see it is, they've released now 5 PS5 consoles. The 2 base models, the digital and disc edition, the 2 slim models, digital and disc edition again, and the 1 Pro model that's a digital edition that can be constructed into a disc edition. So, what do I think of the overall look anyway? I reckon, look, it's got this nice, sleek look, but at the end of the day, I also don't really compliment the appearance on it because it looks like you've put some friggin' exhaust pipes or something of like the side of a factory on it. Like, it looks a bit weird with the 3 lines. It looks like an Adidas shoe. You know, you've got this white console with this Adidas shoe. Everyone was given the PS5 console shit when it first released and saying, hey, look at me, I got the new PS5 console, and it was an air conditioner, right? Or a heater unit from like Kmart or something, or from Target, or TK Maxx. Like, people were picking on it because it's this great big tower looking thing. And then now that I've had time to sit on it, the the PlayStation 5 console itself, I like what they did with it in terms of having just like no lines. I'm talking about the base model, not the Slim, not the Pro. The base model PS5 consoles, digital and disc edition, being able to take that whole plate off and not have to take 2 individual plates, but just take that one face plate and back plate off and just replace it. To me, once you got the hang of it, it was fine. But when you first did it, I felt like the first couple of times you felt like you're going to break it because it makes this loud snapping noise. Now you have to do 4. Unnecessarily have to take the front and back one, upper and front and back lower off. You have 4 plates now for fucking some reason because I just wanted to put these 3 fancy freaking lines and make it look like a fucking Adidas shoe. Like, I don't know what the hell was going through Sony's head in the terms of design. It's not bad, and they had to make it look different. They could have done something else. I just feel like they could have done something that looked a lot more better instead of making it look like an Adidas shoe. Like, what's with the 3 lines? You know? I don't understand the lines. Is it 3 lines? 1, 2, 3, or is it 4? I could have it wrong, but I don't know. The design to me just looks silly. It looks stupid. I'm not for the design. I'm really not. I'm not one of these geeks. I'm not one of these nerds who's going to be like, I love the design. It looks brand new. No, it doesn't. It's the exact same shit, and I get it because it's still technically a PS5 console. You could do advanced ray tracing. You can not have to choose between high performance and graphics. You can have that together. And don't get me wrong, you can have the 120 frame rate. You can have those 3 things. It's not justified for an AUD over $1,000 price point without the stand or the disc tray. This is what I call a Sony grubby hands cash grab. It's nothing else but that. They did 3 things that realistically, yes, they're graphical performances, and it does come down to what's in the console with the chip and all the rest of it. At the end of the day, there's someone out there who could mod a fucking PS5 base console to do the same shit. I bet. It's probably a lot more difficult than what I'm making out it is. But it's like, well, what did I expect them to do? Right, for a PS5 Pro console, what did I expect them to do? I expected the design to be different. I also expected them to do maybe a different UI, a different interface, you know? And I've seen somebody who's modded an Xbox 360 console that makes it look like, when you're searching through your games, makes it look like the game covers. And when you open up the game to take a look at it, it opens up the game like this on your TV, this digital 3D version of the game cover opening up, and you see the disc inside it. And then on the left-hand side, when the cover opens up, it's got like, you know, all the details and any add-ons, any DLCs, run like, you know, how long you've played the game for, all that stuff. And then if you want to play, then it just takes the disc out of the cover and then starts running the disc and then does the little animation and goes into the game. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if you had that option to be able to have like a different interface at least? You know, something that dignifies this is the PS5 Pro console, not the PS5 Slim, not the PS5 base model, but the Pro model. Even like something of a different interface, or even on your PlayStation profile, they had a different icon. And I know the icon's literally just a braggy thing to your mates to say, look at me, I got the fancy new PS5 Pro console and all the rest of it. But look, I just reckon they could have done something different. It's as underwhelming as when you jump from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X. Everything in terms of the interface and the main menu or whatever, right, the home screen, looks, it's all the same. And Microsoft got lazy. They could have done something different. It's a different console. It's a step up, next generation, this and that, making a big, huge deal out of it. And this breadbox has its same interface, home screen menu layout as the Xbox One. Now, here's me. I'm on an Xbox One Series S, and my partner's got the Xbox X, Series X. We boot both those consoles up. They look exactly the same. They don't run the same, but they look exactly the same from the main menu, home screen layout. PS5 Pro could have at least done something where they said, you get to actually set whatever wallpaper you want, and no matter what game you kind of are hovering over, you still got that back wallpaper. Like they could, I don't know, they just should have done something different. I get it, this is a performance console, so it's literally just like the PS5 Pro performance. The PS5 and the base model and the Slims are literally just, PS5 is great performance, great graphical optimization and all the rest of it. PS5 Slim is just for if you want a smaller version of it, just a tad bit more smaller. And then you got the PS5 Pro, which is just if you wanted more on top of your PS5. So for that, I understand. But for the price point, I do not. Without the disc tray, without the stand, is completely fucking ridiculous. Sony doesn't deserve their grubby hands in the cookie jar of dough known as cash. But a lot of people are going to go out of their way to buy this. A lot of people are going to say, we need it. It's not a need, it's a want. It is always a want. If you're jumping from a PS4 and you've got the money, by all means, I don't deter you away, and I don't hang shit on anybody who's going to get the PS5 Pro console. I'm not a hater. I'm not somebody who's going to say, good for you, fuck yourself, or any of that, right? I'm going to be happy for you. And if it's what you want, it's not a need, but if it's what you want, go for it. Now, I'm somebody where I could have $1 trillion in my bank account and I still wouldn't need the newest tech. I would ride it out until the next console came out or until the next iPhone came out. You know, I would still stay on my same principles. Money doesn't change me on my OCD way of thinking, and everyone's got their own way of thinking and their own way they do things. And with me, I still say if I got the PlayStation 5 base model, digital edition, doesn't mean I can have all the money in the world. Do I need to get a Pro? No. Right? And also, it's a standalone to what TV you've got. Now, my TV pumps out 2160p. Doesn't even reach 4K. And my PS5 base model digital edition console does great. And when you do these side-by-side comparisons, you really think to yourself, it's not enough to justify the price point. It's not enough to justify the means. When I say the means, the ends justify the means, not with the PS5 Pro console, not in my opinion. Right? Not when you're doing, like, now, if you did a side-by-side comparison and it completely blew all the graphics out of the water, it was like a brand new console. And I know that they wouldn't do this, but I'm just saying, if it was a huge graphical performance, and it was something that you could tell night and day difference, then yeah, I would say it would be quite a bit more worth it. But if you're struggling, if you have to look with a fine-tooth comb, with a magnifying glass to see the difference, if people are squinting, if you have to go out of your way to see the fucking difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, and I'll say this straight, it ain't worth a shit ass of a fucking dollar Sony's asking, because it's a greedy cash grab. It is nothing more than them shitting on their previous consoles just to get more money for the new one. And that's the truth. And that's my full opinion on it. Is the PS5 Pro console worth it? Absolutely fucking not. But if you want to go out of your way to get this, not that you need it, but if you want it and you've got the money for it, or you're doing the big leap from the PS4 to the PS5 Pro, by all means, if you own one or you're getting one, congratulations. I am generally happy for you. And this isn't a jealousy banter thing. I know it may sound like it, but it's just one of these things where I know better. Like a lot of other people out there, I know better. And I know what my bank account and what I'm worth. I'm not worth some greedy cash grab from some big corporation, from some big company that just releases something with 3 differences. Do I see minor differences? When you put a PS5 next to a PS5 Pro and you look at their graphical performances, absolutely, it's not worth it. You know? Look, the console looks funny. For what it does, it probably does it really good if you're on a 4K or 8K TV. But I'm perfectly happy sitting on my PS5 digital edition base model. I'm completely happy with that. You know, I don't see a need why I need to trade in my console to get a cheaper price at EB Games for the PS5 Pro console or the Slim. I don't need it. Nor do I really want it. I'm happy riding out my PlayStation 5 until the PlayStation 6 comes out. And even then, they got to, like, at this point in time, I feel like, and I could be wrong, I feel like they have practically dished out what they could. for the PS5 Pro console, they've dished out all they could for now. You need to at least let it go 5 years. You need to let it go where this tech feels a bit like, stagnant, a bit old. At the moment, it still feels fresh and new. And I know that the PlayStation 5 is like 5 to 6 years old at this point. It's been out for a lot of years. People are waiting for the fresh new thing. But to me, the tech still feels very brand new. It still feels very up to date. The graphical performances of even the base model PS5, it still feels fresh. It still feels new. There's no need to jump headfirst into a PlayStation 6 console. Like, why the fuck does everybody just not happy with what they've got and always wants to jump to the new thing and say, when's the PlayStation 6 console coming out? At this fucking rate, they might as well ask, when's the PlayStation 8 coming out? Like, hold your horses, people. You don't always need to jump to the next thing. Be appreciative. Be fucking grateful of what you've got now. You know what I mean? Like, you don't always need to jump to the newest thing. I'm happy with this still feeling, my PS5 console feeling fresh, new. It feels up to date. Could they do so much more with it? Of course they could. I'm not denying they couldn't. But at the same time, you need to let things get a bit older, And if people say, well, at that rate would be 10, 11 years on the same console, you can't expect a new console once every 3 years. All right? Just like you can't expect a new Grand Theft Auto game once every 3 years or once every 5 years. It's going to take a bit longer. If people want what they are begging for, what they are clamoring for, you need to let this tech become old. You need to give it time to become old. You need to give it time to feel like it's old tech. Like, you need to give it time where you feel like the console isn't quite reaching the standards of what the current time you're in. Like, for example, we could be in 2030, we could be in 2035. And to me, by then, we would have been leaps and bounds in tech, right? Maybe not a lot, but quite a bit though. And to me, I would feel like we would have some real new hotshot shit. Like with the PS4 console, you could feel it. We needed something new. It had been out for so many years. You knew that there was new shit that they could do with the games, with the graphics, with everything. With the performance of the console, not having the fans sound like a jet engine, Sony Airlines, you know what I mean? You knew that they could do so much more with it. So you knew the PS5 console was on the horizon. It was looming because there'd been a number of years and we had the PS4 console for a very long time. Just like, for example, with me, I had my PS3 and my Xbox 360 for the longest time. Well, it's going to be the same thing with the Xbox Series X and S and the PlayStation 5 base, slim, and pro models. Now it's time to just sit on what you've got, appreciate what you've got, and then wait. Be patient and wait, because what is to come will again be so much more leaps and bounds than even this PS5 Pro console will. I bet you the PlayStation 6 will make the PS5 Pro look like the base model. And we'll knock it back. And it always happens. Every console has its lifespan and every console has then its shelf life. And one day the PlayStation 5 will be disconnected like the PS4 and put on the shelf. And nobody will really give a shit about it. Me, I'm a relic collector. I love collecting old consoles because I still am a believer that old consoles, for what they did for the games, what they did for their time, like for example, sticking WWF Attitude and even GoldenEye 007 GoldenEye 64, right? And sticking that in a Nintendo 64 console and playing that is just such a throwback. Even sticking the old Mario cartridges in there. Or like the old game Forsaken, if anyone remembers that. It's a throwback actually playing it in the console that it was designed for. You can have emulators and you can have backwards compatibility, and don't get me wrong, I know the GoldenEye 64, or that's on Xbox Game Pass, or it was last time I checked. And playing that on a newer console, don't get me wrong, it's great, because then it means you don't need the older consoles. But I still appreciate what the older consoles did, though, is what I'm saying. But anyway, look, 3 out of 10. The design of the PS5 Pro console looks like an Adidas shoe. They could have done better with that. They could have done better with a lot of things. Greedy ass cash grab, like I said. Am I that impressed? Am I that surprised? Not really. Not really. It's like always expect the expected. If your expectations are low, you ain't gonna really be shot if you know you're not. Just everyone expects too much. Everyone expects too much from companies that are going to give you way, way, way less. So if you set your expectations low, at least when you feel disappointed, you're not feeling that disappointed because you kind of expected it. But everyone's like, the PS5 Pro's console is going to have this and it's going to have that. And it's going to, like, a lot of people were very much dead set on the money of knowing that it was going to only be like a couple of fucking things and that was it. But then again, what do you expect? It is still a PS5 console at the end of the day. So you weren't really going to be expecting something too hot shot to blow you out of the water, you know what I mean? Look, it's all right. If I was making the jump from PS4 to PS5, not going to lie, if I had the money, I would go for the Pro console, making that jump. So I don't shoot anybody for doing that. If you've already got a PS5 console, you don't need the Pro. Quite honestly, you don't need it. And even jumping from a PS4 to a Pro, well, again, it's just you want it. You don't really need it. But if you've got the money for it, by all means, go for it. If you own one, congratulations. I'm happy for you. I really am. You know? And I reckon, look, for me to do something like this, I'd want to have a straight OLED 4K TV, at least, because I would want my console to match my TV. That's just my way of thinking. You know, if I had $1 trillion, $1 billion, $1 million, whatever, if I had Trump money, I would literally get my gaming setup absolutely as crystal clear perfect as I possibly could. That's neon signs around the room, pictures put up on the walls with nice neon LED light effects. I would have the 4K ultra clear QLED TV. I would have the PS5 Pro console, the Xbox Series X, and I'd be running these things at optimal performance. And I already do run my PS5 based console on the most optimal performance that it possibly could be on, and it runs really well. Even me running 2160p, it's still very clear. It's still very, very good. It may not be 4K, but it's still very clear. It's still very good. Now, I don't know whether this is to do with the settings of my TV or the settings of my PS5 console. I need to go through it. But last time I checked, I was running everything on pretty good performance. Optimal performance of graphics, right? I'm somebody who's a graphics. I'm a sucker for graphics. So like I'm like a graphics bogan nerd with that. So I go for that over performance of a game. You know, but depending on what the game is, because if the game's trying to, some games try and push for being a graphics powerhouse, and then some other games might push to be a performance powerhouse. And whatever they're kind of promoting the game to be, and if they're promoting the game to be both, then I'd still go more graphics. But if they're doing one or the other, that kind of predetermines what settings you should have on the game. But even then, I'd still go graphics. But anyway, this has been the PS5, well, I should say it properly. Thank you for watching this episode of SMS Games Talk, and this has been the PS5 Pro review. And as always, if you're not streaming it, it ain't worth shit. Take care, guys.